ME is characterized by a severe dysfunction of multiple complex systems in the human body failing to work together. The same can be said for the institutional response to ME. Multiple complex organizations failing to work together as patients continue to suffer. You're with Gusto, and I have ME. I'm raising awareness for this poorly understood condition by eating a consecutively hotter chili each episode. Last episode, I threw up after eating the 350,000 Scoville habanero pepper. But from here on out, it gets significantly worse, as I'm only going to be eating the world's hottest commercially available chilies. This is the Boot Jolokia, aka the ghost pepper. It hits for a mind-bending 1 million Scovilles. And as you can see, this is a massive step up on the heat scale, yet still only half of a Carolina Reaper, my ultimate destination. The historical institutional response to ME is so long and exasperating that I'm going to be covering it in 2 episodes. This episode is the government, medical and media response to ME. Next episode is the scientific research and patient advocacy/charity response. When it comes to the government response, I'm only going to cover the US government because they have by far the world's largest health budget. I've already covered the Australian government in episode 2, and I'm not even going to touch the UK government. Suffice it to say that they still errantly believe that talk therapy and exercise therapy are a cure for the condition.
Yeah, they're so stupid!
The US government response to our crisis has been abysmally slow. It starts in 1984, 50 years after the first recorded case of ME. In the postcard perfect location of Incline Village, Lake Tahoe, Nevada, a massive ME outbreak occurs, affecting hundreds of affluent residents. The Center for Disease Control dispatches a group of experts to analyze the mysterious condition. Baffled by the complete lack of visible symptoms, they recommend further inquiry. Subsequently, the NIH funds at least 5 large-scale studies into the condition, but the results disappoint. MRI brain scans prove inconclusive. EBV and HHV6 are separately ruled out as causes. The only finding that still stands from these 1980s studies is that this is probably a heterogeneous, diverse illness that could be triggered by multiple different genetic and environmental factors, including stress, toxins, and exogenous, external, infectious agents. In 1987, the CDC officially labels the condition chronic fatigue syndrome. Experts still agree that this vague and trivializing label set the research world back decades and left patients like me feeling hopelessly misrepresented. Since that time, a lack of strategy and leadership concerning ME has plagued government institutions, even to the point of outright funding misappropriation.
Yoink.
In 1996, the head of the CFS program at the CDC, Dr. William Reeves, blew the whistle when testifying before Congress that the CDC had misspent $13 million of the $23 million allocated for research. A subsequent audit revealed that for 4 years the CDC misspent 40 to 60% of funds earmarked for CFS research on unrelated matters. Several CDC staff members gave false testimony to Congress on the actual use of that money. In 2015, the CDC attempted to reduce $5.4 million of ME funding to zero until a massive patient outcry reversed that decision. Only this month has the CDC updated their official ME/CFS webpage to remove all references to exercise therapy and CBT as a treatment, and secondly adding strategies for coping as a patient and supporting as a loved one. Small progress. Now let's take a look at the NIH, where the majority of US health spending is decided. From 1996 until 2011, the funding for ME either flatlined or declined, while during the same period, overall NIH funding increased 5-fold. Then, during 2011, something really important happened. During a town hall meeting, Barack Obama was asked directly what the NIH is able to do to help ME patients. Obama is the most important person to ever address the issue of chronic fatigue syndrome research. And here's how the question and answer went.
It's a young lady's turn, right here, in the red.
Mr. President, my name is Courtney Miller, and I want to thank you for returning science to the national priority. And I need to ask for some help for my family. My husband has chronic fatigue syndrome, which is an illness very much like multiple sclerosis. And we spend billions of dollars in this country on roughly 1 million patients for disability and Medicare and lost tax revenue and lost productivity. And we spend less than $6 million for NIH research on this illness. And I'm asking you for my husband and my kids who want their father to be able to go to their baseball games, if there's a way to make improvements in that.
Well, let me first of all say that you are absolutely right that we've tried to put science back where it belongs. You know, we've got to use science to make life better for our families and our communities and this planet. That's one of the reasons why part of the Recovery Act was reinvesting in National Institute of Health, NIH, which does a huge amount of the basic medical research that ends up then creating so many of the scientific advances that are making our lives longer and making our lives better. Now, I will confess to you that although I've heard of chronic fatigue syndrome, I don't have expertise in it. But based on the story that you told me, what I promise I will do when I get back is I will have the National Institute of Health explain to me what they're currently doing and start seeing if they can do more on this particular ailment. Okay? Sure.
True to his word, Obama followed up with the NIH to encourage more ME/CFS research and relayed this in a letter to Bob and Courtney Miller, the strong couple who asked the original question. Courtney, by the way, is an ME advocate herself, being a board member and online writer for Cimarron Research, a non-profit organization based out of, no coincidence, Incline Village, Nevada. Since that letter, ME has slowly been rising on the NIH's radar. In 2015, they expressed plans to establish trans NIH ME/CFS working groups and reinvigorate research programs. In 2016, that working group issued a request for information aimed at assessing the needs, opportunities, challenges and gaps for ME research. This year, 2017, on his official blog, the NIH Director Dr. Francis Collins, alongside Walter Koroshitz, who is the Director of the NINDS, where ME is officially homed, communicated their serious intention to address the disease, saying, "We recognize and empathize with the suffering experienced by people with ME/CFS and their frustration that so little is known and so little research has been done to find answers. We aim to change that. The NIH is committed to unraveling the underlying biological causes of ME/CFS as swiftly as possible and promoting research that will inform the development of effective strategies for treatment and prevention of this devastating condition." In practical terms, this has resulted in the establishment of what are called NIH Research Centers. That's basically a lab that will steward research programs, which take the form of 2 to 3 proposed research projects, 1 collaborative project with other centers, and all the data from each of those centers will all be collated at a central coordinating location. Funding applications have been received from 10 research centers and are currently being reviewed as I record this. But only 3 of those 10 groups will be funded. Why so few? The issue again remains funding. As encouraging as it may be that the NIH doubled funding from 2016 to 2017, it's still only $15 million annually. And I've also just learned that this extra boost of $7 million isn't even guaranteed. The funding hasn't been allocated yet, despite the promise. So let's just hope those 3 research centres are just a start and the NIH continues to build on them. Now let's talk about the medical community. How are doctors taught to recognise and treat ME? In short, poorly. ME is barely taught in medical school, if at all. No strong clinical guidelines exist to diagnose patients. Instead, there's actually a confusing multitude of criteria. Some of these are so weak that 38% of patients with a major depressive disorder were misclassified as having CFS. Also, ME isn't a reportable disease, so there's no consensus among doctors about how serious the problem really is. A major problem is a lack of a biomarker, meaning that there's nothing that the doctor can test you for, and often, if you can't test for it, it's out of sight and out of mind, even for a trained physician. Unfortunately, a high amount of doctors still believe it's psychological in nature, despite years of continually mounting evidence that it's a physiological one. A horrible example of this occurred in February 2013, when severely ill patient Karina Hansen was forcibly taken from her home and held in hospital against her will by doctors and state officials. She was only returned to the care of her family after a 3.5-year legal battle. It's astounding that in the present day this kind of medical maltreatment can still occur to ME patients. Media coverage. This has been mixed for a very long time. In 1990, an accurate Newsweek cover story highlighted the struggle of sufferers and the efforts to find a cure. But an article about the misappropriation of funds at the CDC was run by the Washington Times under the headline, "Yuppie Flu Funds Missing at CDC." The overall tone of the article is actually supportive of patients, but it still ran with the headline, "Yuppie Flu," a term intended to reflect that this is a disease that affects predominantly upper-class citizens. The reality, however, is that ME is actually more prevalent in low-income communities, where it tends to be underdiagnosed and underreported. The dichotomy of good reporting and bad reporting still exists today, as can be seen from these headlines from reputable news sources. Here are some accurate headlines and articles, and here are some inaccurate headlines and articles. ME has been virtually ignored or derided by large institutions for most of its history. But don't despair, because the signs are increasingly positive that things are turning in our favour. I just wish the pace would pick up a bit. And one potential way to speed things up is by gathering attention with the help of the following celebrities, who have all been touched at some point by ME. Cher, Flea, Emma Blackery,
diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome.
Morgan Fairchild,
It's because Morgan Fairchild has had this disease.
and Stuart Murdoch.
There's not even a bit of paper that says I have ME.
Last episode, Morgan Fairchild liked the tweet that I sent her, so perhaps if enough of you drop the hashtag #MeChili challenge onto her Twitter, she might be willing to eat a chili and raise awareness. But right now, it's time for me to eat this ghost chili. I'm not looking forward to this. Whoa. Oh man. Oh my god. Whoa! It is so hot so quick. The fires of Gondor are lit. Oh god. Oh my god. The eyes are watering, the tongue's on fire, the hiccups have begun. It's really hard to talk. I'm actually gripping this bench to stay upright because I don't want to fall over. Tears are streaming down my face. I'm hyperventilating, I can't stop hyperventilating. I can't think straight. I can't talk a lot because I just can't process the pain. I don't know what to tell you, it's just really hot. I just want to fall down. I don't feel good. I feel sick. My tears are running constantly. My nose is running as well. I don't like this. My body's tingling and there's just constant pain in my throat and face. The dry retching's already begun. I hope I don't throw up, but I feel like it's a definite possibility. I have to adjust the camera because I can't really stand up straight. I think I'm gonna throw up. There goes breakfast. I need milk. So when I ate that, my equilibrium just went. I was just rapidly salivating. My eyes were watering, my nose was running, my body heat just instantly rose. All that happens when the body thinks it's been poisoned. And it assumes whatever you took, you have to get out. So, thanks a lot guys for watching, and please join me next episode as I cover the more positive response of the scientific research institutes and patient advocacy and charity organizations. Bye! Ghost chili. I feel like I'm about to die and become a ghost. Oh, the suffering.